Hey everybody, welcome back. And now we're going to go ahead here and create the textures for our clownfish body. Now you can see here that I'm inside of ZBrush, and we're simply just going to paint some texture and paint some color information here onto the body. But before we do that, we need a couple images depending upon how you want your fish colored. In this case, since this is a clownfish, I simply just downloaded a few images from Google. And let me go ahead and bring these over so you guys can actually see these. And I'm going to put this inside of our project folder for ZBrush, which is going to be our module rig folder. Okay. And I want to sample the color information from this BW clown, this one as well, this one, and this one. And we're going to go ahead here and paint all four different textures here. Okay, as you can see, if we go ahead and open this, you can see where there's four really different color variations to this fish. Okay, so like I said, we want to go ahead and sample the color information from this. And ZBrush doesn't like to load JPEGs to sample the color information from. It really likes to take a PSD image. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click and drag one of them over to Photoshop here. And I am going to go ahead and paint all four different colors like I said. But I'm just going over here and loading this into Photoshop. And I'm just going to double click the background to unlock it. Come into adjustments, the hue and saturation. I'm going to go ahead and up the saturation a little bit so I can sample a little bit better color information from it. And then I'm going to save it in the module rig as the PSD file. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close that. I'm going to take the rest of them, just drag them into Photoshop here. I'm not really going to worry about upping the saturation. It was really just on that first one because it was going to be a little bit too dark. So I'm going to make sure I save the rest of these as a PSD file. Okay, go ahead and save that one. We'll go ahead here and save this last one. Okay, and I can go ahead and close Photoshop here. Okay, so now that we're back inside of ZBrush and all those images have been converted into PSD file, what we need to do is we need to load the image plane here on the background. And to do that, we can simply come up here to Texture, Image Plane, and I'm going to turn the size down here to say maybe 50. 50 should give us at least a good image to go ahead and fit there. And we'll go ahead and click on Load Image Plane. We will go into our Projects folder, our Tuts Plus, Module Rig. We'll take the BW Clown, and you can see that this comes in. Okay. And we're just going to simply paint here. So we need to take off the Z add, turn on the RGB channel, and I'm going to hit the space bar, and I'll drag from the color swatch here up to a color that I'm liking, and you can see where it looks a little bit more blue, so I think we'll go ahead and take that one. Turn the RGB intensity down here to say 6. Go ahead and fill the object, but you can see where it did fill it. It's just slowly getting darker and darker. You can probably just turn this up to 100. Go ahead and fill it completely. Okay, so we'll now just go in here and sample the orange. We can always paint with the freehand. We'll go in here and turn the intensity down, maybe turn the brush up here, and probably turn it down a little bit there. And we're just going to try and match the color swatch here that's on the face. So it looks like his lips aren't necessarily orange. It's just certain parts of the face here. So we'll try and match that as best as we can. I'll turn off the lazy mouse there. And try and paint this as best that I can. Maybe paint a little bit on the chin, leaving at least a little bit of room there on the lips. Okay. You can always go ahead here and we'll be painting the white here as well. Okay. So we want to sample the white color information here as well. So we'll just take the white here, and it looks like it might be a little bit more blue than white. Okay, so we're going to start off here maybe with the tail, trying to paint it at the same color information. So we'll go ahead here and just make sure that we paint this. I'm going to try my best to go ahead and paint all four here, since I mean the color information really isn't that complicated and complex here. So it looks like we need to do one in the middle of the body here as well, and one on the head. So we'll just try and paint this as best as we can. I'm definitely not Picasso here. I'm just, you know, trying to take my time here and paint as best as I can. And you can always, you know, paint with the spray brush as well. That's going to be a little bit too large. Okay, go ahead here and paint the stripe down the middle of the body. That's going to be way too large there. I'm just trying to get this done with a steady hand, which really isn't the easiest thing to do, but that's okay. Looks like we need to paint the tail, the tip of the tail here as well. You know, there's really no right and wrong way to go ahead and texture this as well. Definitely feel free to paint it whatever way that you want. You don't necessarily always have to match the concept or the image that you've downloaded from Google. But I would suggest that you guys try and match it a little bit. At least try to add some realistic flavor in there. So I think we need to go ahead and paint the back one here a little bit. Okay. And if you Google clownfish, you'll see that there's so many different color variations, which is why I've chosen to go in and actually paint 4 different colors here. And then from those 4 colors, you know, if you wanted to go in and into Photoshop and manipulate the color even more and hue and saturate it more, you can go ahead and do that. Okay, so I think for now I'm happy with this first one. So what I want to go ahead and do now, since we have this first one painted, is I want to make sure that I save this. So it's going to be Clownfish Final Paint 1. Okay, and that'll go ahead and save that. So now I'm going to go ahead and fill the body here with white again. Just making sure that I turn that RGB intensity up to 100. Okay, so now you can see where all that color information has gone. And so we'll go ahead here and paint it a second color. So we'll take this clownfish and we will sample color information here from the body. We'll go ahead and fill it orange. We'll go ahead here and maybe take the yellow here as well on the front of the face. Turn the intensity down. And I don't want to paint that much. I want to paint maybe just a little bit here. Okay. Just trying to be careful of, you know, what I paint here. Yeah, it looks like it might be on the top of the body here as well. You can probably turn that intensity down even more. And I'm just taking my time working through the actual paint here. And I'm just looking here of how I want to go ahead and throw the black color on. Okay, so we'll go ahead and sample the black image, or black part of the image here. And those look like the side fins. Okay, so we'll try to be a little careful here. And I'm just going to turn my brush down, because I don't want to paint like the body portion here. I just want to make sure that I get this color information on here as best that I can. Just being careful that I don't paint anything that I don't want painted. Yeah, it gets a little bit tricky, and it's okay. Just have to be a little careful here. And you'll notice that I'm painting on both sides here at the same time. Looks like it might be a little thicker here. You can always turn on the toy plastic if you wanted to, or whatever material that you guys actually want to choose there. Let's go ahead here and throw the white onto the model here. So all these clownfish textures seem to have that 3 white stripe pattern. And it looks like it might have been too big there. Okay. And we'll go ahead and, looks like it might be a lighter shade of orange a little bit here in the middle of the tail. Okay. And on the fins here at the top as well. And a lot of that can be controlled by the subsurface scattering shader that we'll be using as well for this, so that we have multiple different rendering passes. Looks like it might be a real light orange here. Okay. Let's go ahead here and throw the other white stripe here on the head as well. Just being careful that we don't overpaint at least. And let's go ahead and throw the white down the middle of the body here. Okay. And we can sample this black again. Let me go ahead and just make sure that I get this sort of peach color here for the back fin. It's too much. I'm going to go ahead and shrink that down. Okay. Now we can go ahead here and sample the black and line this stuff. So I'm just going to shrink my brush down there. Just making sure that I'm, kind of being really careful here, because I want to make sure that I get it in a straight line the way that it's supposed to be. Okay. We'll do the head one here as well. And it just takes a little bit of a steady hand to go ahead and do. I also don't want to make this black so overpowering. Okay, so we'll go ahead here and line the front of this as well. Okay, we'll go ahead here and line the middle of the body. We'll go ahead and do the top fin here. Okay. And we'll go ahead and throw this part on as well. Go ahead and sample the white here again, and we'll paint the end of the tail here. Okay, we'll go ahead and grab our black again. Just have to shrink the brush down. Just being careful that we don't overpaint the white too much. Okay. So at this point we can go ahead and just save this for demonstration purposes only. We'll go ahead here, save as fish paint 2. Okay. We'll go ahead here and select back the white. Turn the RGB intensity up here to 100. Okay, fill it. So now we can repaint a third texture. We'll come in here to texture, image plane. Go ahead and bring in this dark orange percula. And it looks like this is going to be a little bit more complex. Okay, so we'll just come in here and sample color information from it. And we'll go ahead and fill that object, and that actually looks like it's a little bit too dark, so maybe we'll lighten that up a little bit. Okay, go ahead in here and sample our orange, and we'll take our spray, and that actually looks a little too reddish. Go ahead here and spray the body a little bit here. Like I said, I'm just using this for demonstration purposes only, and you guys can paint it whatever color you want. There's really no quote-unquote right and wrong way to do this. Okay, so we'll go ahead here and sample some more color information from the tail. Turn it yellow a little bit. We'll go ahead and brighten that up. And maybe try and take an orange here. Throw some of that orange in there. And you got to remember too that it's going to change as well, especially whenever we go to render it with the subsurface scattering material that we'll be using. And it can really be manipulated and changed even more, especially inside of Maya whenever you're using the subsurface scattering tool, or shader, because the way that the light's going to hit it, and then with your rendering passes, a lot of it's going to change pretty extreme in some cases. We can go ahead and do that. Okay, let's go ahead here and throw in our white, which is more like a blue there because of that neon light. So I just want to turn that blue into a white almost. It looks like it's going to be a little bit too thick. Okay, so we'll go ahead here and throw the white there on. And we'll have to throw it down the middle of the body here as well. And just have fun, you know. painting your textures. Okay, so let's go ahead here and toss on our black. Oh, that is way too thick there. I'm going to turn that intensity down even more. This way it'll be easier for me to control the distribution. Just much easier. And if you have to go over it, you know, with more than one stroke, that's fine. There's really no big deal. Just make sure that you know, at least get it lined properly. Can probably even turn that up to 2. Be careful when you turn that intensity up because this slider bar is a little sensitive. Take your time when painting too, because you know you don't want to rush through anything. This is all just for demonstration purposes, really, so that you guys can understand exactly how to make all these textures. And you can paint this as many times as you want. I'm not exactly sure if there will ever be a stop in terms of, you know, how many frames that you actually can paint. I guess it would all just depend on how much time and effort you want to go into painting many different textures. But I have found that if you paint at least 4, from those 4 you can really go in and manipulate it inside of Photoshop to really get a multitude of colors that really should allow you to have probably about 1,000 different fish in the scene, all with a different color, because you have those 4 initial base colors, and then if you manipulate for the hue and the saturation inside of Maya, you should really be able to crank out a bunch of different colors. Okay, so let's go ahead here and sample the rest of the black, and we'll just quickly throw these onto the parts of the fin here. Even though we're not really going real quick, we're basically just taking our time here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and call that an end there. Okay, so we have 3 of our body textures created here. Oh, let me go ahead and paint this back fin a little bit there. Okay, so we have, you know, a good solid 3 body textures here. Let me go ahead and make sure that we save this for our 3rd version. Okay, paint 3. Now the key here is going to be getting these textures out of ZBrush so that we can convert them through xNormal. In the next lesson, I'll go ahead and come back so that we can focus on that specifically. And come on back, and we will go ahead and convert our texture paints from ZBrush and into Maya.